are the Druids and
Yeah.
how did you meet them?
Yeah. Well, the Druids are an ancient, I'll call it kind of group of people that lived on Earth from approximately 400 BC to maybe 1400 AD. We don't know the exact timing because they never wrote anything down. Everything was spoken and through song and story. But they ended up in what we now know as like Scotland and Ireland. So a lot of people will connect them with the Celtic side of things. And so they really connect in with that grounded guidance. They're all about life purpose and how to embrace the elements and live the life that each of our souls came here to really experience and live. And so they came to me one day. I noticed there was this being following me around who looked like a monk and but didn't say
Really?
anything, had really like arthritic, gnarly looking fingers, and I couldn't see his face because his hood was up over it. And anytime I would say, if you're not of my highest and greatest goods, you need to leave, he would just stand there. And then I'd be like, but you go. And he would just like back out of the room. And then I'd ask Archangel Michael, can he be here? And he'd be like, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, okay, like if you're good with it, I should be good with it. And then one day I decided to, I said, okay, I need to figure out who this being is. And gave me some advice and some thoughts and said, I want to work with you. And I kept saying, who are you? And he said, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And then a few weeks later, I was sitting with a friend and I was, describing him to her. And all of a sudden she goes, is it a druid? And I go, what's a druid? I had no idea. And so then I started, as soon as I said, what's a druid? I heard, he goes, you got it. And then I did some, for my own brain to find some knowledge. And he shared a lot with me. And we just started building this relationship, knowing that I've been a druid in many lifetimes. So this is not my first time doing the work and kind of working with them, but really just want to bring their wisdom forward and let people embrace life and have a joyful life versus, kind of what the mundaneness that all of us get stuck in and that I was in for many, many years.
Welcome to the Angelscapes Podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Who are the Druids? Are they ancient spiritual beings? And why would we channel them? Or why would Katherine channel them? What do they have to say about today's world? And what does it mean to balance the earth's elements within you? Hello, and welcome to Angelscapes. I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide to living a soul-powered life. And you're invited to join me on my Facebook group, Soul Power Living. And we can continue discussions that are started on these podcasts, as well as other discussions. So joining me now is my guest, Katherine Flynn. Katherine channels the Druids and Source, who grace us with wisdom and grounded guidance. Katherine and the Druids approach channeling a little bit different than traditional channeling. Together, they create a space where spiritual guidance feels approachable and it's empowering and it's easily to know, guys. If you've listened to me, integration is that's what spirituality is all about, integrating high as above, so below. They deliver sources messages with grounded element-based coaching and action planning. That's what we all need, action planning. What do I do next? What's the best thing to do to help people move forward and make real changes in their lives? So welcome, Katherine. I've been excited about having you on since we met.
Well, yes, I've been so excited to come on as well. I thank you for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. So who is who are the Druids and
Yeah.
how did you meet them?
Yeah. Well, the Druids are an ancient, I'll call it kind of group of people that lived on Earth from approximately 400 BC to maybe 1400 AD. We don't know the exact timing because they never wrote anything down. Everything was spoken and through song and story. But they ended up in what we now know as like Scotland and Ireland. So a lot of people will connect them with the Celtic side of things. And so they really connect in with that grounded guidance. They're all about life purpose and how to embrace the elements and live the life that each of our souls came here to really experience and live. And so they came to me one day. I noticed there was this being following me around who looked like a monk. And but didn't
Oh,
say
really?
anything, had really like arthritic, gnarly looking fingers. And I couldn't see his face because his hood was up over it. And anytime I would say, if you're not of my highest and greatest goods, you need to leave, he would just stand there. And then I'd be like, but you go. And he would just like back out of the room. And then I'd ask Archangel Michael, like, can he be here? And he'd be like, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, okay, like if you're good with it, I should be good with it. And then one day I decided to, I said, okay, I need to figure out who this being is. And gave me some advice and some thoughts and said, I want to work with you. And I kept saying, who are you? And he said, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. And then a few weeks later, I was sitting with a friend and I was, describing him to her. And all of a sudden she goes, is it a druid? And I go, what's a druid? I had no idea. And so then I started, as soon as I said, what's a druid? I heard, he goes, you got it. And then I did some, for my own brain to find some knowledge, and he shared a lot with me, and we just
Oh,
started building this relationship, knowing that I've been a druid in many lifetimes. So this is not my first time doing the work, and kind of working with them, but really just want to bring their wisdom forward and let people embrace life and have a
wonderful.
joyful life versus kind of the mundaneness that all of us get stuck in and that I was in for many years.
Absolutely. Well, I have to just ask you a couple more questions about these
Yeah.
druids. You were describing one spirit, one a man with
Hmm.
arthritic
Hmm.
hands, but you
Hmm.
did say they're a group. So who's
Yeah.
coming through you, the group or the man?
It really varies each time. I call it a collective
Okay.
because their messages are all very based in the same energetic connection. But I have, a few, like one of them that comes forward is a little more feminine. She, I'd call her more of the, divine feminine figure, grandmother figure, that matriarch. Then I have one that's very ancient. But to a client in front of me, they're not going to notice that. I just can notice the difference in how the energy feels. So yeah, but I still call it a collective, even though I can sometimes single them out. But sometimes it just feels like a big group too.
They're all talking together. That's amazing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I have so many questions. On one
Yeah.
hand, I want to talk about you and what you do
Uh,
with the Druids, and you've written a book and you have a
hmm.
website. And
Hmm.
the website is called thechannelledsource.com. And you can reach Catherine at thechannelledsource.com. I'll go over that a little bit more later. You have a book out and you have programs and events that where you train people. So there's Catherine and then there's the Druids. I'm sure that they're all blended together. But tell me about a
Yes.
little bit integrating the Druids with your spiritual life.
Yeah. So my I was living kind of in the three, I call it the 3D world. I had the job, I had the, career, I was, had the house and the, 401k and all the things that we're told to do. And I just noticed I wasn't happy. And I was just finding that I just, even though I knew I channeled, but that was kind of, I created it as a hobby. I said, we're going to put that in the hobby bucket. I just knew things weren't going right. And the universe kept throwing, balls at me and I was just trying to dodge them. A few of them would hit. I had a moment where I got into a car accident and I heard, are you done? And so that was really the beginning of my journey of, I quit my job. It was my dream job. It was a job that I would have kept
Mm,
forever. But I knew that it just wasn't aligning with where I needed to go. And the universe kept showing me that. And so I took myself on a spiritual journey then of really connecting in with the elements, really finding what is my passion, what do I love, what grounds me, what is my foundation, who am I? And just working through each of the elements with earth, foundation, then I worked with water a
Yeah.
lot about emotions and clearing and, all the way through all 5 of
Yeah.
them to really kind of figure out, okay, where am I going and how I want to support people on their journey. And I want them to love life as much as I do. Even in the times where it's tough, you can really kind of hone in on it. And so through my, experiences over many, many years, I looked back on that and I realized I had created a program and I called it Journey Through the Elements, which really allowed for me to, support people on their own journey and how we can tap into the elements that are right here on earth, and allow for us to, yeah, to kind of find that alignment and live more in alignment to our path and purpose.
I love that. I love you've integrated everything so well. So how is it now that you're living in
Yeah.
the 5D, 3D world, like comparing, um, I mean, we're still living in the 3D world,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
seem like how did what is that like? I mean, I
Yeah.
can speak to mine, but I wanna hear about yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, it's fun. There are things that I have done that I wouldn't have expected, but I think because I was in such alignment with where I needed to go, the universe was just naturally handing me things that were in my path. And I always say, sometimes they weren't the things I wanted, but they were the things I needed. And looking back, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. For example, where I live right now, it was not the house I wanted. It was everything I didn't want, but it absolutely was what I needed. And I love where I'm at. So I just find that when you're going at this and you're not letting those tougher things hit on you and you're not getting so caught up in the societal norms and worlds and things that are put fear in us or separation in us, it just makes life a lot simpler. And people will always laugh. They're like, "You live under a rock." There, can be a hurricane or an earthquake, and I'm like, "What? When did that happen?" Because I just live in this world of just being in life and in the elements, and then I find out things and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize there was a natural disaster," and, reach out to those that I know in the area, but then kind of float back into my grounded space of just, embracing what I have and where I'm at.
Mhm. Beautiful. Just before we, um, again, thousands of questions, and I'm not even
Yeah,
looking at my list, just
that's okay.
but your, when I know you see a lot of clients, and I know you talk to
Mhm,
people. You either channel to them or you take them through
mhm,
your program. It's a 12-week program, Journey Through the Elements. And
mhm.
what do you how are you interacting with them? What are you teaching them? What are they coming with
Yeah.
to work through?
Yeah, it really varies client to client. For those that do just the 1 hour channeling with the druids, it's really about what they're going through at that exact moment. If there's a reason, whether it be, a career, financial, family, feeling misguided, needing some clarity, they'll come through for that. And then, with the Journey Through the Elements program, I find it's more of people that are feeling misaligned, but they've tried other things, but they don't know what to do. They don't
Right.
know, they're not sure what the problem is, they just know things feel off. And so a lot of people will work through that program with me. But I always tell people like, go what resonates. I offer a session called The Moment to Connect, which is a complimentary free 20 minutes where we just chat and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And see what resonates with how I can support them on their journey. So I always tell people like that's a great place to start, and then we could just chat and see where which one might be a better fit for you. And I will say, I know a lot of practitioners that do this. I might even say, hey, call this other person. They're amazing
Oh
at
yeah.
what you need.
Mhm.
Um, and because I want each person to get exactly where they're at and or get exactly what they need based on where they're at.
I love that. So how can people find that set up that appointment with you?
Yeah.
You go to your
Yeah.
website or
Yeah, you can go right to my website. There down at the bottom, it'll say there's a moment to connect. It's also in sessions. You can also, email me and say, hey, I can't find the link, or can you do that? But that's offered. And you can book any of the sessions on there. That's just the one thing that I like, to make sure people are aware of that if they're like, ooh, what direction do I go? Start with a moment to connect and we can at least chat about
the
that.
moment to connect and then go to the
Yeah.
channeled source.com.
Source.com.
Not
Mhm.
sources,
Yeah.
the channeled source.com, one source.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, because the Druids always talk about, universal or God, they call it source. And they have since I started channeling them well over a decade ago. And so that name came to me, the channeled source one day where they said, "This is the name." And I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah." So there
I love
what
that,
it's
I love
been.
that.
Yeah.
So let's go a little bit more into the elements. When you say we work with the elements, and how would one work with an element? You started to say the water and the emotions. You had so many emotions
Mhm.
going through.
Mm,
What does
yeah.
that look like?
So each of the elements kind of, I will say, rule a part of Earth and life on Earth. And so the first one is Earth, which is foundation, which is
Mhm,
grounding. Every know that I think everyone's heard, go walk in the grass outside, go hug a tree.
mhm,
And so when we work with that element it's about really tapping into you with like, what is your foundation? So I'll
mhm,
tell people like, go sit under a tree and just journal, just to feel that energy coming up. What are your pillars that make you who you are? What are your beliefs? What are your morals? What are your thoughts? What are those
mhm,
things that make you who you are? And sift through them. And that's what, when you're in earth, if you're digging in the dirt, if you're, cutting the grass, if you're sitting under a tree, if you're going for a hike, you can really tap more into that and you can allow for earth to support. And so that's kind of a first section. And then we move into water, which is all about cleansing and clearing and washing
mhm,
away. And that's where things come up. And even clients will tell me, like, oh, that water week was tough because you're just allowing the energy to work with you.
yeah.
But it is about what do you need to release? What maybe doesn't serve you anymore? What is a opinion, judgment, or belief that maybe
Mhm,
wasn't yours. You just took on. We take on so many things from our
uh-huh,
parents or friends or teachers. And so what do you need to let go of? And so that week is about, I know my foundation, but is there things in my foundation that maybe need to let go of? Or are there things that I didn't put in my foundation
mhm,
that I need to let go of? And from there we move into air, which is all about life force energy, balance and harmony. Do you have balance in your life? Do you have um it does work to, or personal to professional life, is there a balance there?
mhm,
Are you balanced in, self-care versus giving to others? You can also we look at, your life force, like the one thing we need most in life is air. And everyone always goes water. And I'm like, no, we need air more than water. Water is important. So it's about, we work with the air and, sitting outside in the breeze or doing breath work or things just to allow for that air to really come into our bodies, into our lungs, and that oxygen to really get in as we're working through this of where am I feeling balance and what in my life gives me that life force energy. Like when what do I do that really helps build that up. And from there, then we move into fire, which is all about transformation. It's also about that spark inside of you, what really truly ignites that, what really makes that burn bright. Because we know our passions from our foundation, that's our part of our
mhm,
building block, but what really gets that fire going and what do we need to transform?
mhm, mhm.
And then, yeah, so we work with fire in a lot of different ways. And then the last one is, ether celestial. So where's our soul at? What is our soul bringing into all of this? The other are all very earthbound, but that soul, because our bodies are, we're truly earth. Our body is 100% earth. And so, but that soul coming in is where it brings in that celestial and that ether. So, what can we really allow for ourselves to understand the purpose of the soul, understand what the soul
Mhm,
wants to do in this lifetime, and then balance that out with the elements so that you can
mhm.
continue to walk your path, utilizing these elements and the energies they have.
That's, I that's a beautiful path that I'm seeing it broken down like that. So,
Mhm.
focus on the water, focus on the
Yep.
air, focus on the fire.
Yeah.
That month
Mhm.
must be amazing, the fire month. But,
Yeah. Yeah, it
so
is. It's amazing where they start and where they end up and how they even like they'll take like a sharp right turn and I'm surprised. I'm like, "Wow, didn't see that coming." But it's what they needed, and they were tapped in enough and to recognize it and be honest with themselves.
oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, being honest with yourself, that's
Mhm.
clearly you create a sacred space if people are coming out and saying, "I can be honest with myself now,"
Mhm.
because just
Yeah,
being in the regular world, it's like, you're too busy deflecting, and
exactly.
surviving, but, um, so many people feel like they're living a life that looks, fine on the outside, but feels misaligned on the inside. How do the Druids define true life purpose, and how can someone tell if they're off their path? Now we can feel like the elements, something's wrong. We like, have a sense of something's wrong, but
Yeah.
I
So
think that's a very
they
common, yeah.
It is. Yeah, that's a great question. The Druids talk about life purpose as, what did your soul come here to do? So
Hmm.
we all have a path and a purpose. And, when people say, well, how does that look? And there is a Disney movie out called Soul, and it came out kind of, I think, 2020 ish. So it kind of got pushed to the wayside. But it's a really cute movie that kind of shows how this little soul needed to come to Earth, but he couldn't figure out his passions, what he wanted, what his skills were. He just kind of bounced around for a while. And so that's a really good example of how it is, because our souls decide, what do we want to work on in this lifetime? What are our goals? What do we want to experience? What do we want to learn? What skills are we going to bring with us? What passions are we going to have? What is going to make give us the best chance of really excelling in this lifetime? And so we come in to Earth, which is very dense, and we have this plan. And ultimately, your soul is going to continue to kind of lead you on your path. It's going to kind of lead you to where you need to go and what you need to do. But we do have free will. And so we have all of these, even, as a child, you have all these other influence, your parents telling you stuff, your teachers, your friends, you're watching stuff in media. And so it's about really saying, okay, where is it you want? So there are people that do sometimes get off their path. There are some people that I think just totally jumped off of it to take a new path, and that might be okay. But it's not about looking at someone going, you're off, but maybe that was part of it. Maybe their path did want them to continue to go like this.
Yeah.
And people know they'll off because they just feel it'll feel misaligned, life will feel dull, you'll just be stuck in the daily grind. You don't necessarily see the positive, you can be very judgy, very opinionated. Those are all, and it's not all of those, but that's a mix of things that it
Hmm.
can be. But for most people, they're just gonna feel like there's more there. They're missing something. And this isn't a journey where you have to say, okay, I need to, like I did, like I'm gonna quit my job, I'm gonna uproot my life.
Right.
It's about
Yeah.
making these small things,
Mhm.
because when you are on the path, maybe your job is right for you, you're just feeling a little off kilter with it, but maybe it's because you don't have the balance at home. Maybe you gave up your fun hobbies and you don't go out with friends anymore and you just show up to work and leave. Well, if you can balance that, you might find that your job is actually great in that standpoint. And so there's just those tweaks. So the Druids just want people to embrace life and to, when you decide to exit this life, whenever that is, you can go, wow, I had a great time. You'll be looking down on your body down there going, wow, I had a great time and you held up well, like we did some good things, so that you can really, embrace it. And that's the key, you don't want to go look back on your life and go, wow, there was not a lot I checked off in that life path or purpose. You
Yeah.
want to say,
Yeah.
wow, look how much I did. So,
Yeah, no, I've taken people on past life journeys, and they've explored, some past life journeys where they did nothing.
mhm,
One
yeah.
woman was in, a room, very secluded. There was a
Mhm,
bed dresser, and she had so many traumatic losses in that particular lifetime that she said,
mhm,
I'm kinda done till I'm done." And,
yeah.
that was, really telling for where she was stuck in this life now.
hmm
It's like,
Yeah.
I can't, yeah, I can't do this,
Yeah.
I can't do this. It's like, well, let's talk about why you can't do those things.
Yeah. Past lives are so powerful for us and can really affect our life if we get caught up in that energy of it that isn't
Absolutely.
ours in this lifetime. Yeah. But our soul is
Yeah.
still trying to protect us and has those experiences, and so, yeah, it can be tough,
Yeah.
but that's amazing you help people get through that, I love that.
Sometimes, and I mean, we talk about the past lives in our souls, and since you mentioned before we got on that you had many past lives as a druid
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
and I was really curious to know, how you think about the soul and this I call it the spirit or the life that we're having now.
Mhm.
The soul is growing and learning so much. And here we are,
Mhm.
and a facet of our souls growing and learning. So we might have another agenda once we're born because we forget everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, no, I want to drive a race car. Forget about it. But and your soul's
Yeah.
saying, well, I can do speed. Speed. So, but what's your version of that? Of what the soul and the help that the soul gives you, but the soul's learning from your learning.
Mhm. Yeah. So the soul's always going to guide you because that's you have so many guides around you. Whether they be, guardian angels or loved ones who have passed or, souls that you've had an amazing lifetime with before that says, "Hey, I'm just going to be here to help you in this one." So they're always kind of pointing you. I think the thing is sometimes that the ego kind of steps in and the ego's very important to us as it protects us as it's part of our consciousness.
Mhm.
It can make up who we are, but the ego is there sometimes going, no, we need that, no, we're going to do that, ooh, that looks fun. It's kind of like that, that kind of like that dog that sees the squirrel and is like, ooh, look at that, look at that. And so it's about balancing that when is something coming up that you're saying, like, oh, I really want to drive race cars, I want to drive race cars, and your soul's like, well, we can, but we did that before. Maybe it's more about being a adrenaline person or something that's very fast. You like fast things. You might live a life where you just like bounce from one thing to the next. Well, you need that movement. And so
Mhm.
I think it all comes down to is that if you decide to become a race car driver because you're like, ooh, it's going to be fun and fast, but you notice like you're just not doing as well with it. You can't handle the heat from inside, or you want to do it, but there seems like there's something in the way. That's when you need to look at it and go, okay, if I've given 110%, if I've put in everything into this, is this truly my calling? Because if you were meant to be a race car driver, no matter if you won or lost, you would love it. You would love every moment of it.
Love it. Yeah.
And so it's about really seeing, okay, when do I need to shift? And maybe you say, maybe I love race, but maybe I love designing race cars. Maybe I love being a mechanic on race cars.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's like, you know what? I want to go faster than a race car. I want to go and learn about jets. And so, and maybe you turn that into working on jets. So it's about just kind of being inquisitive with yourself. And if it feels off, questioning it to go, okay, there's something here, but it's misaligned. And maybe your soul's going, oh, thank God we're done with race cars. We moved on to jets. Jets is where, we wanted to go from the ground to the air. We wanted to see that growth.
Yeah.
Um, and many hobbies I find people have are things they did really well in a past life. So if you find that it's like a hobby or you're like, you know what, I love it so much I don't want it to be my life's work. There's people like that are amazing chefs, but they say, I'm not going to cook for people, I'm going to cook for myself because I love it. Well, that's most likely it's a past life thing where they truly loved it and they want to keep it as that and keep that love instead of turning it into something more.
Yeah. Well, I've always said, and I feel this way, and maybe you do too, is that we can totally not listen to our guidance. We can tell our
Hmm.
guardian angels to take a hike and do whatever it is that we want because
Hmm.
we're free will. And but the plan is always there. So,
Yeah.
we're gonna live out the plan, the learning, the life learning. We could do it the hard way, or we could just do it the inspired way. It doesn't matter. You're
Hmm.
gonna learn, you're gonna grow, and your soul
Yeah.
is absorbing everything. We're
Yeah.
not strangers to our soul. I mean, our soul is not strangers to us. We may be strangers to our
Hmm.
spiritual self, but sometimes the
Hmm.
off feeling can just be that.
Hmm.
I'm I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah. 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 There's always, I always tell people, there's no two people that are the same, that are different, that have the same thoughts, that have the same, what's in one person is different than another. So yeah, it's just about listening and trying out something new. I can say I have tried, taken a lot of classes, tried new things, and some of them stuck for a while, and then I like walked away and I was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh, that's why I needed that." That's what my soul was telling me. There was a book I picked up called The Mist-Filled Path, which is a great book. But for me, there was only one sentence I needed out of the whole book. And I started reading it and I got to that passage and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so enlightened." And it was about just really living in your owning your life and stepping into it. And all of it, then I dropped my book and I was like, "Oh man, I lost my page." So then I pick it up and I pick right to the same page. And read it again. I'm like, "Okay, message received." I closed it, I put it down, and then I picked it up, said, "Oh, I'm gonna finish this book." Picked it up a few weeks later and did not have a bookmark or anything. Picked it up right to that same,
The same page.
spot again. Like, what are the chances, in a
They were not
200-page book?
kidding. They're
I
not
know.
kidding. Listen to this,
No,
Catherine.
I know. And I read that passage again and I closed it and I haven't picked it up since. I'm like, "I got it. That's what I needed out of that book."
Within this
So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's go back to the Druids. We had
Mhm.
talked about what do they wanna tell us, or I had asked you, what do they wanna tell us about what's happening today, and you had kind of thought of something about moving from the third 3D world into the
Yeah.
fifth dimension world, which
Yeah.
seems to be wreaking havoc in pretty much everybody's life. But I would love for you, and if you want to channel for us, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
whatever you feel inspired to do, um,
Yeah.
what are their
Why don't I
messages for us?
why don't
Yeah.
I channel and have them tell you in their own words instead of me giving my perspective from their messages. So, all right, give me 1 second here to kind of get into that space with them. So, yes, the shifts of the world that are happening are coming in a way that is causing the humans to have a little upheaval, we will say. And so, yes, as the earth is shifting, the energy of the earth, Mother Earth is needing to realign itself. It's needing to get out all of the extra dead energy. The same way you can say when, you get up in the morning and you stretch and maybe you crack your knuckles and you kind of get all ready to go for the day. Well, Mother Earth is doing something very similar. She's coming in and saying, "I just need to move for a second. I need to get everything to settle in the right spot." And so, with the shifting of the energy and the ascension from the 3D to the 5D, which is happening for some time, you will find that there are those on Earth that are taking to the energy very well and just riding it. And there's those that are fighting it or being tossed around or finding it more problematic. And so that is because there is this sense of that if you are battling back against it or you haven't done your work to align to it to allow you to ride the wave, the same way when you're in the ocean and if you are on if you're on a raft and you're just kind of going up and down, you will do very well versus the person that's trying to go this way to avoid that wave and this way to avoid that wave. They're going to get thrown off. They're going to get tossed around a little more. And so that's the same thing that's happening with the energy is that there is this sense of this up and down, back and forth movement of everything that is there. And so for those of you that are feeling that, it's really about learning how to just ride the wave, not getting worked up about it, not going into fear mode, not going into anger mode, not going into blame mode, but just saying, "Okay, this happened. Let me resolve it. Let me fix it. Let me be aware. Let me think beyond what could happen." So, say you're going on a road trip. Well, maybe you have your car checked and you check the tires. You just don't get on the road and then you perhaps, a tire gets a hole in it and then you're like, you go, "Oh man, why did that happen?" And you're so upset. Well, if you just would have checked it before, maybe you would have noticed that there was a nail in that tire prior to. So it's just about being a little more aware and prepared right now. Now, you can look at preparedness as going so far into the fear area of life. And that is not where we want people to go because fear is what pulls you back. It doesn't allow for that expansiveness of things to come. It doesn't allow for you to move forward because it's in some ways it's holding you. And fear is a good emotion at times for, if you see a bear in front of you, you should have a little bit of fear. You're not going to go up and give the bear a hug. You're going to say, "Ooh, I should be a little fearful here." But there are things that cannot control, that there are no need to have fear over, or things that may not even happen to you, you need to have fear over. For example, someone that is in the desert probably will not have fear that, that the whole part of their world is going to flood. Yes, there could be slight flooding if they get a lot of rain, but there most likely is not that, or that they're going to have, a ton of snow. Someone in the desert probably is not going to fear snow or blizzard-like conditions. Uh, but that is about the sense of where what is happening. And as you come into this placement in time, and as you come into this space of where things are, it is about this connection to the who you are, but also how your energy is placed on the grid of the world. How are you bringing in your energy to allow for that calmness? Or are you one that is taking action? Or are you one that is creating the fear, or creating the separation, or getting sucked into that? But understanding that, yes, Earth has duality, Earth has free will. Those are two very, very important things that separate Earth from so many other places, but allow for the growth and expansion of the soul, because it can come in and go, "Ooh, I want to try this today." Where in other places that would not be the case. You would just be on one straight path. And so it is about really understanding that separation and that difference of life, to truly kind of realign to where you are and where you're going. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Everyone seems to have a different role in their lives, and so people are reacting and getting afraid of the weather pattern changes, or the concern about global warming, or the concern, what is, you said ride the ride, but some people are being called into action. How do you know if you're being called into action from your fear or from your soul?
And that is what you have to go inward and talk to the soul. That is when you have to look at, what is my reaction to things? That the soul always looks at, how can I shift, but how can I also love others? So if you are taking action and you're saying, well, they did this and they did that, and you're putting blame on others, that's probably coming more from the ego. Where the soul can come in and say, yes, we need to make this shift. We need to look at the climate and Mother Earth, and so, yes, these things are happening which are not good, but what can I control? What can I make change in? Can I talk about changes in policy? Can I talk about going and helping plant a garden or an urban space, or allow for, seeds to be dropped in a certain place that needs more vegetation because there's so much runoff. So it's about, what can I do? But it's not about saying you did, and placing blame, because placing blame is saying they are worse than you, but right now they are showing you the duality, that they are doing this thing that is not good. And we will use the example of littering. So people can say, well, I just throw my trash out and let the earth take care of it. Well, the difference is that it is not, because it takes so long for that trash to be picked up, or animals take it, or it doesn't biodegrade. And so someone that's working from the soul is saying, okay, I'm going to start a time where we can, everyone goes and picks up litter that is there. And then they say, I'm also going to talk to cities and governments about that this is not creating a good habitat for us, and it's not creating a good place. So I'm going to help work and change the laws or the rules that are there. And then they're stepping into that, and they're seeing that change, and they're seeing that shift, versus seeing someone litter and yelling at them and screaming at them. But they might educate them. Hey, just so you know, this causes this issue or that issue. But there's that difference in the energy that's put out. Does that make sense to you? That
Yes.
difference in the shifting of all of
Yeah.
that?
Yes, it
Okay,
makes
good.
sense.
So it's about how you step towards it, and how you allow, because we are truly on earth, everyone is one. And you will hear many of the galactics talk about that as well. All souls come from the same place. We are all one. And the goal on life is to live your life and feel that ascension and that shifting that you have. But it's also about to understand that what hurts you also hurts me, and that I can still love you and care for you, and see you as a being of love and light, and accept that, and be part of that, but also feel the separation, that that you are not living my life, nor have you had my experiences, my traumas, my joys, the same way you have not had mine. So
Mhm.
placing judgment on me that that is the case, could be very detrimental, could be very hard. So perhaps there is a person that, throws things that does litter, but perhaps you find they're littering apple cores and banana peels, and you go, well, why are you throwing these food scraps out and not putting them in the trash and say, well, I want to compost it, but I don't understand how to compost. And they say that we need to get nutrients back in the ground. You go, well, here's a time where I can educate you. And so you go with them and you teach them about composting, and you buy a compost bin and they begin the process. So sometimes it's just a lack of education in that way.
Mhm.
And so it's about really not pointing your finger. That is one thing that we do not like, but it is saying, how can I support them in understanding better? And sometimes people will not change. But perhaps that is the duality that you needed to see to say, okay, well, they're going to be doing this thing and I don't agree with it. And it's not in alignment to me. But I'm going to control what I can control. I'm not going to get in a fight with them. I'm not going to tell them they're dumb and stupid. I'm not going to say how awful they are. I'm going to say, what can I control in this place and time? What can I do to help the cause that I believe is there, but still understand they're living their life, they're having their experience, and they may come around to believing what I believe, or they may not. It is hard to know. It is hard to know what that will be. So does that help clarify your question?
Oh, that's very, very thank you. That's very clear, which some leads me into another question that we had talked about, Catherine and I had talked about is we're shifting. We're shifting. And humanity is shifting. However you want to say it, because everyone's saying it in a different way. Catherine said from the third dimension to the five dimension, change. Could you talk about that and
Mm.
how do we go with
So
the
yes,
flow?
yes. So there is a lot of shifting, and some of that comes back to what we spoke of Mother Earth shifting, but it's also creating shifting in the state of people and where they are. And you have a lot of people that are holding on to what was there before or wanting to go backwards, and you have people that are trying to shift forward. So they're moving in a forward direction. But it is really about having a sense of understanding that yes, that there is this movement and where are you at, but not allowing for this separation to become so great and to become so large. To understand that we are all one, that we are all working for a commonality of each living our lives, and people can be mirrors to you. People can show you duality, that you can see these differences that are there. But where it becomes difficult is when you start to create this wall of separation. When you start to say, well, they don't believe what I think and they don't do what I do, and so they're not good. Well, yes, there's good and bad in the earth plane, like there is black and white. Same way there's blue and yellow, opposites. But it doesn't mean one is better than the other. And so you can say, well, they should not believe that or they should not do that. In some cases, you are putting your beliefs and thoughts on them. Now, there are basic things that we all know should not be done to others. But there is this case of where you need to look at, what is the belief? And yes, you may not believe that, but you still understand that's where they are. And back to our prior example, can you show them or educate them? But you should never say, to say, no, absolutely not, I hate you is a very different case. And there are so many people that are doing that to those that they love, that they're friends with, because of a belief, because of this shifting of the separation. And so it is about having to recognize when are you saying, okay, this is where I am, and that is not in alignment to me. And so I still love you, I still care for you, but I'm going to maybe give myself some more distance. But I can still, come in contact with you if we're at a family get together because you have a different belief than I do or a different thought. But it is about understanding that where those things are, and that yes, there are things on earth that happen that are very difficult for everyone to understand, and that change does need to happen in certain ways, but it allow for
things to be uncovered, for things to come up, for the earth to allow for things to be seen and light to be shed on what was dark. And maybe some of the light needs to go a little more deeper into the dark to bring that forward. But it is about finding that in most cases, there are so many people that are creating this big sense of separation because of beliefs, because of opinions, because of different things. And there's times where that is not necessary to create those hard separations. That maybe it's more of you believe what you believe, I'm going to believe what I believe, but we can still go and have dinner together. We can still let our kids play together. We can still create this sense of, yes, this is how we can exist. And maybe you don't, go over and go out for dinner, every night or every week, but it is really about can saying I can respect your beliefs if you can respect my beliefs, and moving forward in that way. And in the time that we're in and all of this, we will use the term upheaval that's going on, is and we will say is somewhat meant to be right now, for it is allowing for a lot to come up to the surface. And as Mother Earth continues to kind of move and stretch and get resettled again, that is just these energies that are coming up, which are now being shown, which were perhaps hidden before. And so just allow for yourselves to continue forward, not placing blame, not pointing fingers, not doing all of that, but instead saying, this is where you are, this is where I am, and understanding that from a different standpoint, and recognizing what is being shown to you, and does that change your belief? Does that change your opinion? Does that allow for you to kind of resettle into the space of where you are?
Beautiful answer. Thank you so much. I have another question about
Mhm.
you've been mentioning about Mother Earth needing shift and change. She has a her own she has her own path. She has her own free will. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah.
Because we often think that Mother Earth is static.
Yes, and it is not. She is not static. She is constantly changing, evolving, shifting, and is truly here to support all of the energies and beings on Earth that live on Earth. For everything that comes from Earth, or everything comes from Earth, and so for humans, what they eat, what they clothe themselves in, the houses they live in, it is all provided. And so, yes, she shifts and she molds and she changes based on what the needs are. You can say you can see a change in atmosphere, a change in the air, a change in what is there. And yes, some is caused by people doing things that changes that. But she can also adjust and shift. She's evolving. And we are all, everything from the smallest microbe of fungus or bacteria, we are all her children. We are all here, and she is supporting us in our journey and where we are. For if she did not provide air or water, we would not exist. We could not live here. We are beings that require that. And so, as that is created, it allows for that to come forward. And so, yeah, she is shifting, she is changing, she is bringing so much in of what is there. But it is really about, recognizing that these shifts and changes maybe are necessary. The same way the house you were born in and grew up in, most people do not live there until the day they decide to exit this life. Many of them will move, and you might move to a different home within the same town, or you move across the country, or you move across the world. And so that is because you are aligning yourselves to different energies that are different places in the earth. Some are lighter, some are denser. They give different things. The elements connect in. Perhaps you need more fire energy, so you move to the desert, or you find you can't live there, but you can visit there, or you want to go near water. All of these things are things that shift and change based on the being of who you are. And so you will find that if you are someone that moves across the world, that most likely on your path, you needed to make that big shift. You needed to make that change to allow for you to experience elsewhere. If it really calls to you and you knew that was what you yourself needed, that can be very helpful. But then you also see people that move as children and they end up going back home.
Mhm.
They end up going back and as they're an adult or later in life saying, "No, I need to go back to where my roots started." And so you might see that as well. So yes, it's about just really just flowing with it, going to where calls you, trying out new things, testing out different things Mother Earth has. But she will adjust for each of you as every being on this planet, every living organism and non-living in some regards, are her children, and she will support them in whatever way she can.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Just
Mm.
one last, and then I won't ask any more. But the Druids, Catherine talks about the Druids as being having you were guys were here 400 BC and for a few hundred years. Could you talk about your where you've come from, what your experiences were, and what brought you here to channel through Catherine?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of our work was really done to allow for us to live as a collective on Earth, and embrace what Mother Earth provided. So we did a lot with the elements. We did a lot with herbs. We healed a lot. We worked with the Reiki energy or the energy of the earth that is very healing to humans and beings. And we supported people on their journeys. We wanted them to have an understanding of life and to be healthy and to be whole in this lifetime. And so that was a lot of what we did. We allowed for people to understand, the energies here, the universal energy. We worked a lot with the moon cycles and astrology and many other things, and especially the plants and the trees that were there as well. And so, we came here to help shift the earth consciousness, to help allow for the ascension and the change of Earth to be and all of the beings on it. And we had some success at times, and there were other times where we weren't as successful as some of the energy and knowledge is bringing forward is maybe not quite aligned yet for where you are. The same way you cannot give, a child a jacket that is built for an adult or made for an adult and go, well, wear it. It's for you. It should fit. And they're like, you can't see their arms, you can't see their legs. And they're like, well, I don't know how to move in this because it's too big. Well, that can be the same thing that can be said for a lot of the messages and knowledge that we want to bring forward. And in this lifetime, Catherine has decided that she will allow for us to work with her to bring the knowledge forward, to support others, to allow for that ascension and that change in the earth plane and those on it. And so she has been with us many times in the human form as well in other lifetimes. She has also connected with the energy when she has not been human and being more of a guide or more of a collective. And so we are very thankful that she is willing to work with us again in this lifetime and will help spread the messages that we have to allow all beings to really align to their higher purpose and placement that of life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there one final thing that you'd like to leave us with?
There is much shifting, and we will ask everyone just to not to make split second decisions, but really see with everything you say and do and act upon what calls to you within your heart center, what calls to you within your soul, and start allowing for your soul to make decisions with your consciousness instead of just one over the other.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Of course. Oh,
Oh,
well,
welcome
thank
back.
you for allowing them to come through, Nancy. I appreciate it.
Oh, so very welcome. Thank you for bringing them through for us. Was lovely. I I could feel just this warmth, and I also felt like just felt like I was in another world. Was through their words, just moved to. But I appreciate
Mhm.
what you brought through, and it's it's a lot to think about. I'm gonna have to, listen to this again, and I recommend
Yeah.
everybody listen to this podcast one more time.
Yeah.
A lot was said, a lot of really important thing, and the
Yeah.
overall message that I heard was flow, ride the waves, flow, a lot of
Yeah.
water energy, a lot of water energy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's and let it clear out what needs to be gone from your path and just really allow for that. Water is it's one of my favorite elements to work with, and
Mhm.
probably because I have so much water in my chart and I really tend towards it, but it's true. Just allow it to take you where you need to go. Don't fight it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm. Mhm.
enjoy, because it'll take you exactly where you need to be. It's like they always tell me the example, and I use a lot, when you going down a river in a boat, the person that's trying to paddle here and trying to paddle there, well, they don't get anywhere. But the person that just like kicks up their feet and they might run into a tree, but then the current will turn them around and keep them going. It's like sometimes that's what we need to do. We just need to say, all right, well, we're going to go with what we get.
Take me away. Take me away.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
wonderful. Wonderful. We're coming to the end of this, so I think we could stay on for forever, but, I want
Yeah.
to remind people that you can find Katherine Flynn at thechanneledsource.com and Katherine at thechanneledsource.com. I believe you're on Facebook and social media
Mhm.
at Katherine
Yes.
Flynn or something, yeah, and,
Yep, yep. This channel source has pages as well, so you can find me on there. I also have a personal page that pops up now and then for people. But yeah, you can find all the information
yeah.
on all of those sites.
Beautiful, and, there's a program, there's Aligned with Your Life Purpose Workbook, and the link will be below the show, later on, and also check out Catherine's program, the 12 is it 12 months? Or is
12
it
weeks.
the
Yeah,
yeah,
weeks. Yeah.
don't give me away 12-week program about the elements, and,
Yeah.
which sounds really fascinating, sounds like it could be very, help you to flow through this time,
Yeah.
and ground yourself while you're flowing and,
Ex-
all that stuff. So thank you again for coming on, Catherine. It was my pleasure. It was such a gift to have you channel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for allowing me on and to share the knowledge of the druids and all their wisdom. So I really
No,
appreciate it.
they are special, special beings. Um, so for now, we're going to end this episode with just a shout out to Catherine, a shout out of love, and to all of you who are working with the polarities, with the duality. Hang in there and get into your flow mode, and remember to love yourself, care for yourself, stay safe in what you do, be curious about your life, love yourself, nurture yourself, and know that. There's another day that we're moving towards something beautiful, as Catherine said. So this is the end of the episode, and thank you for joining us. And thank you again, Catherine.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.